Hi, welcome to the Dartarian Show, Season 4 premiere.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I think we're doing Mythical Monsters Part 2 this time.
Yeah, and you guys know who we are, but we'll
course,
introduce ourselves anyways. I'm Alexander Dartarian.
And I'm Dominic Sykes.
And let's get into these mythical monsters, man. Because the first Mythical Monsters Part 1 was a hit.
Yeah, definitely one of our more popular episodes.
Our most popular episode. So we wanted to give you Part 2, because there's so many mythical monsters out there, and mythical beings, that, like, encompass the entire, like, all, like, countries, all regions. I mean, you can't go to anywhere without having a mythical monster of some sort.
Of some kind. And a lot of them, are basically copies of others, what I'm saying? Like, there's lots of different Bigfoot legends throughout the world.
Yeah.
Different types of vampires, different types of werewolves, stuff like that.
Yeah. And I just think there's, authors like Tolkien, the guy who wrote the Witcher books.
I cannot pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, so the guy who wrote the Witcher books, and Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, and all that stuff, they took all of those mythical beings and creatures and stuff and brought them into...
Put their own spins on it.
Yeah, popular culture. So that's pretty freaking awesome. But let's get into this list, man. The first one we're going to talk about is Golems. And Golems are a famous Jewish folklore. They're depicted as being created from inanimate matter such as clay or mold. Or mud, sorry. Mold. Mud. Which were brought to life by magic, basically. And they have to serve a purpose. Most of the time, they're there to defend against anti-Semitic attacks. According to the legend, Golems are uniquely obedient and will follow exact and literal orders.
Yeah, you had to be really careful when you asked a golem what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that once you summon a golem, until you've given it an instruction, it won't go away.
Yeah.
So until it's completed its task. So if you give it something like ridiculously impossible to do, you're gonna be stuck with it forever.
Yeah.
Again, I could be mistaken. I could be mixing it with something else, but
also fire. Fire kills them. They fear fire because they are made of clay or mold. Mud.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense.
I keep saying mold.
I don't know.
Mud, and fire hardens clay.
Yeah.
And mud.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense. If you are dealing with a golem, just hope you have a torch of some kind nearby.
Torch and stuff. So
next up, we're going to talk about the Oni. It's in Japanese myth. Oni are people who were so bad in their lives, right, that they were transformed into demons in hell.
Oh, Lord.
Some were even so bad as to be transformed while still alive.
God.
Yeah. These giant, scary monsters usually have red or blue skin. Horns and tusks are traditionally the servants of hell. So a lot of the time when you watch or you see a picture of something of samurai, they have like these masks. They're almost demonic or horns on their helmets or something that's supposed to depict the Oni. Yeah. Anyway, they enact violent punishment on evildoers and will eat just about anything, including humans.
Yeah.
While stories or depictions of Oni may vary, they are always seen as dangerous and powerful villains.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen drawings of them, artist renditions of them. They're pretty freaking scary, man. They're not something I would ever want to see in real life.
Can you imagine, though, that's smart on the samurai?
Yeah, when they go into battle.
Yeah, because if you're going up against, and you believe in that, those legends and those mythology, that coming out of the
because the
forest or
samurais
whatever.
were the lords of the land, and they kind of protected the peasants and stuff.
Feudal lords, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they were like barons almost. People like our dukes, like in Britain, they had a plot of land and they would like protect that land.
Right.
But like if you're going against someone else and you're wearing one of those helmets and shit, like that would be scary because all Japanese culture knows that legend, and you're like, ugh. Number 3, Cyclops.
Greek.
Yep. Most often depicted as a giant with one eye, the Cyclops, which means circle-eyed, first appeared in ancient Greek mythology. Somewhat lesser known than the classic Greek gods, The Cyclops lived in isolation and tended sheep or goats without any government, society, or community. While scorned for their lawlessness, it was the Cyclops who created Zeus's thunderbolts, Hades' helmet, which made the wearer invisible, Poseidon's trident, and Artemis's silver bow. So we should give them credit for their creativity. They made some really cool shit.
Yeah. Anybody who's read or watched The Odyssey will know all about Cyclopses.
Dude, I love that movie. It's a TV movie, and a lot of people don't like it, but Armand Ashanti is like the only Odysseus for me. Well, maybe Sean Bean and Troy, but that was one of the only movies that he did not die in.
Sean Bean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he dies in like literally everything he plays in.
But Troy, he didn't die in.
Yeah.
But what was that famous one in The Odyssey?
I believe it was Polyphemus.
Polyphemus.
Could be mistaken.
And did you know how they got away from him?
Yes. They tricked him.
Well, they tricked him.
Odysseus, but he blinded him with the torch first.
Oh, really? Because in the TV movie, they sharpened a giant wooden thing, right? And they hoisted it above him, and they sang him to sleep. Mm-hmm. And when he goes, "What's your name?" and he goes, "Nobody." Well, he says in Greek, "nobody" in the book, but he was like nobody, and he blinded him by spearing his eyeball, dropping it right on his head.
And he's like, "Curse you, nobody!" You know.
Yeah, and then
if anybody comes and asks him who attacked you.
Yeah,
it was nobody.
He messed it up. He had to have pride. He
yes.
goes, on the way out, he said, "I am Odysseus of Ithaca." And he was like, because Poseidon's his dad.
Yeah.
Was his dad.
Yeah.
And he freaking cursed him. Like, you're an idiot, dude. You just don't know nobody.
Curses from gods. Next up is the Ogre.
Ooh, Shrek.
Yeah. Ogres are featured in folk tales from all around the world, and though the word is usually French origin, the creature itself is derived from the man-eating ancient Etruscan god Orcus.
Ooh, yeah.
Now, many of us know ogres from like Shrek or something like that, but they're usually tall, very big, strong, plenty of hair, and a huge appetite.
So nothing like Shrek.
Right. They're depicted usually as dull or stupid, and almost always violent. But it's the typical any kind of fantasy game. There's these big brutish ogre type creatures.
I think they have them in Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
Ogres.
Yeah, they do.
Was that that was a troll?
Troll. Yeah, that's right. That's troll.
But no, ogres are usually big things that you would have to fight. D&D has a lot of ogres and stuff, and some other fantasy stuff. But yeah, man, ogres, they're pretty much kind of like what Shrek says, like, "I'll grind your bones" and stuff like that. That's all stuff that ogres were meant to have done. Number 5 is leprechauns. Leprechauns are widely known and easily recognizable, especially if you've ever had a certain breakfast cereal, Lucky Charms, or if you've ever seen a movie with Warwick Davis where he's a killer leprechaun.
Yeah.
While leprechauns originated in medieval Irish folklore.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I seem to remember when I was younger, there was like this Disney Channel movie about this kid who's like on the basketball team.
Luck of the Irish.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah, it's called Luck of the Irish, where he's part leprechaun. Yeah, I was like, what the hell? But they originated in medieval Irish folklore. They did not become prominent until much later. Smaller, human-like creatures, leprechauns are known to be solitary and love for mischief and practical jokes. So they're tricksters.
Yeah.
So according to folklore, leprechauns' appearance and dress could change by region. So they don't all look the same.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And
of course,
I don't know where that pot of gold came from, but
if I remember correctly, it's based off of the thing. People would leave certain things out, like cookies or treats of some kind or whatever, to basically, or that could have been fairies.
No, it's elves. You're thinking of elves and Iceland.
Oh,
yeah. No, like I just don't understand what the point, because like everybody's like, well, if you follow the end of the rainbow, is that something like we made up, like as humans made
I'm
up.
not sure where that particular.
I know, and like if you steal their pot of gold, you get a wish or something like that.
Like everything else, it started out probably in a book or a movie somewhere, and pop culture kind of just exploded it, and that's how we see it, I imagine.
Oh well,
like most everything else,
like you're gonna try to steal my pot of gold. That's kind of
Probably,
really racist. All right, well, so leprechauns. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, since I was kind of talking about it anyway, I'll just go into fairies.
Okay.
So fairies, also known as fae, or fae folk, can be traced back to Old French medieval romance stories. These supernatural creatures or spirits are popular across a wide variety of myths, right? Leading up to the present day. Generally, when we think of them, we think of small winged magical creatures like Tinkerbell type.
Yeah.
However, they're rarely depicted in wings outside of Victorian English artwork.
Yeah.
So in folktales, fairies usually flew with magic and occasionally caught a ride on the back of a friendly bird. But it's also a big thing in Ireland. Fairies, the fae, and stuff like that. That's part of their mythology as well.
Yeah.
Generally, I think we talked about this before.
Irish religion called? I'm sorry.
I know their pantheon, I think, is the Tuatha
Dúdain.
De Danann. Tuatha De Danann.
Yeah. And they, how they get there, the king and stuff, and they have fairies and the fae, and that's what the type of magic they use is fae magic.
Right.
And druids pull from nature, but fae, with the fae circles, you're not supposed to step in those at all.
Yeah, the ring of mushrooms.
Yeah, the ring of mushrooms.
The fairy rings or the fae circles.
Yeah, do not step in. If you guys see a perfect circle of mushrooms, do not step in them.
It's supposed to be really, really, really bad luck.
Yeah. So let's go into Gorgon, or Gorgon.
Yeah.
Another memorable mythical creature from ancient Greece, which is a lot of them. The Gorgons, such as the famous Medusa, were vicious monsters capable of turning victims to stone with just one look. I thought that was just Medusa.
No, she had sisters as well. She had two sisters.
The Gorgon's appearance was an interesting mix of beautiful and frightening, with their most notable feature being the fact that they had live snakes instead of hair.
Yeah.
Gorgon myths are important lessons in not being tricked by beauty alone.
Right. Now, the original myth to how Medusa was created was Poseidon came to a very, very fervent follower of Athena. And she was in the temple, and Poseidon rapes her, right? So, as she's praying to Athena to save her and help her, Athena looks down, sees her getting basically raped in the temple, and is furious, and she curses Medusa, right, and turns her into what she is. Now that could go one of two ways. It could be like, okay, well, she obviously didn't understand what was going on, thought that she was just desecrating the temple, and cursed her because gods are flippant, they don't care about,
or she gave her a way to protect herself away from men.
Exactly. That was the other theory in it as well, is that she turned her into Medusa so that no other man could ever do that to her again, man or god, really.
Yeah, because Medusa could turn god or man to stone.
Yep. So it's interesting. It's an interesting myth. Also, when Perseus cuts off her head, that's how Pegasus is born.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. I thought it was made from clouds.
Nope, he was sprouted from the severed neck of Medusa, along with one other person. I think it was his brother, but it was another. I'll have to look into it. I can't remember, but definitely Pegasus.
Yeah, which is we talked about that the first Mythical Monsters episode.
Pegasus.
Flying horses.
Yep.
All right. Let's go mermaids. Do you like mermaids? Have you seen The Little Mermaid? The original cartoon?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's heard of them.
Yeah, mermaids. Some are depicted as beautiful creatures that help you and help your prayers and stuff, and the other ones are like
they're sirens. Yeah. They lure sailors in and make their ships wreck on reefs, and then they just, while they're drowning in the water, they go and eat them.
Yeah, so mermaids have a unique allure that has captivated people throughout history. They've been around forever. Myths of half-human, half-fish creatures can be traced all the way back to ancient Babylon. Similarly, merpeople are featured in Syrian, Polynesian, and Greek mythology. While some cultures depicted mermaids as beautiful and romantic, in Irish folklore, mermaids can transform into human form and marry humans. Yep. Sometimes mermaid stories took a more sinister tone, where they were capable of foretelling and bringing disasters.
Yep.
And also luring people to their deaths. Or I think I've read a couple stories where they created storms, and that would wipe out entire cities, like harbor cities.
That's another threat that Odysseus has to face as well.
Yeah,
is the sirens, the mermaids. Yeah. So the next thing we're going to talk about, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing this correctly, but the Akrabwamalu, or Scorpion Man, is a monstrous creature that originally was from ancient Mesopotamia, specifically in Babylonian creation myths. They're a hybrid of a scorpion and a man, obviously. The body is the scorpion. The face, torso, and arms are a man. They're pretty scary to look at, but they were created originally to wage war against gods. So they also stand as guardians and often warn travelers who might be in danger. So they're on humanity's side, basically, if you're looking at it that way.
So like The Rock and Mummy Returns, the Scorpion King.
I don't think he's the good guy in that one, though.
No, he's not. But oh god, that CGI was so bad.
It was really bad. That was probably the worst CGI I've ever seen in a movie in my life.
Oh my god. But that's really cool. So half man, half scorpion. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But let's go into some other creatures that are half animal and half man.
If there is, there's probably not a creature on this earth that does not have some myth about it being half that and half
I know.
a person.
Let's talk about the Minotaur.
Yep.
Minotaurs are, according to Greek mythology, is the offspring of the Queen of Crete and a majestic bull that came from the sea.
They believed in some pretty weird stuff back then.
Yeah, but I think it was Zeus.
Probably.
It was Zeus. But
Zeus was messing with everybody.
Bull. The Minotaur had the body of a man and the head and the tail of a bull. King Minos was so horrified by this creation that he had a complicated maze called the Labyrinth built in order to imprison him.
Which was built by Daedalus, which was Icarus's father.
Icarus's father, who flew too close
to the sun.
Yep. Damn, that sucks, man. He lost his son.
Yep.
And then he had to build this damn maze.
A maze for Minos,
Minos to hide his
his stepson.
Yeah. But no, the Minotaur and stuff, and Perseus killed him. No,
that was Theseus.
Sorry,
no,
Theseus.
They all they have a lot of the same names. So,
and they all killed a monster or something. They all did something great.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Minotaur. That's pretty cool. I mean, they half bull. I mean, I'd rather be a half scorpion, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that would be way cooler.
Yeah, that'd be way cooler. Bull.
Especially if you get the bottom part of the scorpion, right?
Yeah.
You just skitter up a wall or something, stab somebody with a tail. So keeping on that same track, we'll talk about centaurs. Obviously, it's another half human, half creature. The other half being a horse. These were widely depicted as wild, but there was a centaur named Chiron, right? And he was basically the trainer of all of the great Greek heroes. Heracles, you know, all of them tutored at some point or another with.
Yeah, he was not
Chiron,
the satyr.
No,
the satyr.
That Disney movie Hercules he was a faun or a satyr.
During the Hercules movie, they made the guy who really trained him a bad guy.
What?
The River Lord.
Yeah.
The centaur. Yeah. That was who really trained him, and they made him a bad guy in Disney movie.
I think it was supposed to be something else. Because there is a river god that is half also as a centaur as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just cannot remember what his name was.
I guess I was being centaurist.
Right. All right, so we got next.
The Phoenix. And I can't remember if we talked about this or not. I don't think we did.
No, we didn't. We might have talked about it in passing, but I don't think we've covered it.
The Phoenix is a mythical eagle-like creature, generally known for bursting into flame at the end of their life, only to emerge from the ashes reborn. In both ancient Egyptian and classical myth, The phoenix was associated with sun worship and was depicted as a large bird with gold and red feathers that could live for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
The phoenix was also a symbol of immortality, eternity, and resurrection.
Yeah.
Which is something they hugely believed in Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, and the Phoenix has been in all kinds of shit, like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the whole Phoenix Force thing in the X-Men and the Marvel universe.
Absolutely.
You got
the Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, it's video games, books.
It's an awesome bird. And do you think something like that was real at one point? Like, no, not about bursting into flames and being reborn.
Oh, but
that's
like a
bullshit.
giant, maybe a giant tropical bird
yeah.
that had possibly migrated, and they kind of just
eagle-like creature. I mean, it could have been, but like it just flew to the sun, and I bet you those feathers were beautiful when the sun was behind it and stuff. But that's also watching. We watched the Harry Potter reunion. And Richard Harris thought that the Phoenix
was real,
and it was interacting with them and stuff, and no one had the heart to tell him.
Whatever, dude, that would be cool as hell. I wouldn't care if it was real. It looks real.
Yeah, it looked real. He was all talking to it and like hugging it and touching it and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, it's so real. This is a very trained bird."
Yep. So, also in the spirit of creatures that are featured in Harry Potter, the Basilisk.
Oh, cool.
So in European legend, the Basilisk is a serpentine creature, like the Gorgons in Greek myths can kill with a single look.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're called the king of serpents. They're featured in literature, including works by Chaucer and Da Vinci, as well as religious texts such as the Bible. So it's including in the Bible too.
Yeah.
It was hypothesized that the basilisk could be killed by subjecting them to the odor of weasels, griffin's tears, or seeing its own reflection. There's also
chicken myth,
the crowing of a rooster
at
a certain time or something like that.
Yeah. They had weird ways to kill
things.
Like Europeans.
Yeah, like the most complicated. Well, it's not even just complicated, but odd.
Yeah, it was like, crowing of a rooster at a certain time in the morning. Like, what?
Yeah, the reflection in the mirror makes sense, though, because if it kills with a look, I mean...
Well, Griffin's tears, I think, makes probably the most sense, because, like, it's something mythical you would have to go on a quest to get.
Do you know what I think it would have been, though? If you were going to look at that in a logical way, something like a basilisk, right? The closest thing to that now would be maybe a Komodo dragon.
Yeah.
Right? But back then... I don't know what possibly they could have thought it could have been, but instead of killing with a look, I think it would have been much more likely that it would have been a bite.
Yeah.
And it would have been like some kind of toxin that would have been paralytic.
Yeah. Well, the bite of the bite of a basilisk is enough to kill like 1,000 men or something, like the venom of it, because I can't remember what mythology it was, but someone had to go get venom from a basilisk. It was for a mission or something, in order to kill another monster or something.
I don't know.
Maybe it was in a video game. It might have been a video game.
Might have been a video game.
Yeah. But I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It might have been in the Bible. I don't know. A unicorn.
Oh yes.
So
the most vicious creatures of all mythology.
Unicorns, a horse or a goat-like animal. I've never heard of that. The goat-like animal. I've always seen a horse with a horn.
It's always been a horse.
With a single horn are commonly depicted mythical creatures from ancient mythology in Mesopotamia, India, Greece, and China.
So anytime that you have myths that are prevalent throughout multiple different cultures, I think that's pretty interesting.
I'm thinking rhino. I think they just saw a rhino and they just thought it was so all the way into modern age, people have been fascinated by this majestic creature, known to be a purity of magic.
Yep.
They also have healing properties.
And what would be the first thing that we would do?
Oh, we would kill it.
We'd kill all of them for their horns.
If you drank a cup made out of unicorn horn, you would be protected from poison. So they killed them, because I'm assuming they would, like rhinos, they would just kill them for their horns.
Well, there's also a legend that if you get gored by a unicorn, even if it's a glancing hit, nothing can heal it. Not magic, no kind of medicine. It will never heal, ever.
Well, yeah. Well, that makes sense too. If it's a rhino, because those horns are so huge, they'd go right through and kill you. But also they were depicted in. I think they're depicted in Never Ending Story. Is that it? No, that's just a white horse. I don't think it's a unicorn, is it? Is it a unicorn?
It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Remember. It might be a unicorn. Don't hold me to it.
Unicorns in Harry Potter too, since we have so many.
Yeah, we got Harry Potter's just like.
Yep. Going into the next one.
In Charmed, they have a unicorn in Charmed.
Do they?
Yeah, they. It's like a weird episode. But anyways, it's the day the magic ran out, and then the elders sent different variants of magic.
Right.
And they. It was when Wyatt was born, the baby. It was a gift from the elders, and they scratched the magic off the horn, filed it a little bit, and that gave them a huge boost in magic.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So our next one is going to be a chimera.
We did that one last time.
Oh, that's right.
Hydra, yeah.
So a Hydra, it's another Greek creature. It was depicted as a gigantic snake-like monster with many heads, each of which could dispel acid. In some cases, books and movies and stuff, they could each spit out something different.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In mythological accounts, cutting off one of the Hydra's head would result in two more growing in its place. Before his death at the hands of Hercules, the Hydra was known to terrify the people living in the marshes of Lerna. Yep. That would be
cut off one head. Two more shall take its place.
Really complicated thing to fight.
Yeah, because it's in some myths you have to cut off the right head or the
proper head.
Yeah, the proper head
that controls it all.
Yeah. So
that would make
when
sense,
you cut off one of the heads and it's not the right one, two more grow back,
and then you have even harder.
Yeah. So
figuring out which one's the right one.
Because they made a joke about it in Clash of the Titans. The one with Sam Worthington. He's like, do you know which one to cut off on a Hydra? And he's like, the middle one. And he's like, lucky guess.
Yeah, no, they. I wouldn't want to mess with the Hydra. Just the simple fact that it can grow multiple heads out of cutting off a single one is bad enough. But the fact that each one of those heads can spit acid.
Oh my god! And I think one was fire, one was acid, and one was something else in Percy Jackson. Or it was 2 fire, 1 acid, something like that.
I can't remember. I know what you're talking about,
though. So let's go on to the next one, a Pontianak. One of the scariest ghost stories from around the world is a story of a Pontianak. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But it sounds
almost have it. It's Pontianak.
Pontianak.
There we go.
It's an Indonesian and Malay mythology. The Pontianak is a female spirit of a woman who died while pregnant. The Pontianak is a pale creature with a long dark hair and red eyes, and while objectively frightening, she can transform into a beautiful woman to prey on men. Almost like a woman in white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She is said to appear at the full moon and feast on the bodily organs of her victims.
So there's a lot of myths like that too. They tend to
the pregnancy one is a little bit different than a woman in white. I mean, they usually lose their children or lovers scorn them and they've killed themselves. So her being pregnant is a little bit
the origin of how it starts, but the overall effect it tends to be similar in a lot of these. It's always a traumatic.
Is that where we got the name for Pontiac?
I have no idea. I don't know.
If that's the case,
I doubt it. I think it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, it's like, why would you name a car brand after one of the scariest ghosts in that type of mythology? Mm-hmm. But all right, well, so
next up is a Banshee.
Ooh, Banshee.
Yep. Originates in Irish folktales. It's a female spirit said to appear preceding the death of a loved one. So it's kind of like an omen.
Yeah.
She'll wail or shriek to warn family members of the coming disaster. Physically, descriptions of the Banshee vary from a 1-foot tall old woman to a young woman in the family who died at a young age. Okay. So it generally would come.
Well, that's weird.
If you would hear,
they took that and they made it into a creature that the shrieks. If you heard the shriek of a banshee, you would die.
Yes, but that's because of the fact that any time that you would hear a banshee wail, somebody dies.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about other mythology.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Other stories.
Yeah, that's probably how that happened, though, is because it went from being a
Like in The Witcher, I think the Banshee is something different than what it really is. But in Irish folklore, I thought Banshees were more medieval European. Well,
They were all over, they were all over Europe. But it's just, it was supposed to, if you heard the wail of a banshee, you knew that somebody close to you was going to die.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that sucks. That would be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, if you hear that in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and they also, the Banshees have been in Charmed as well, where it's the woman who's has a heart broken. They turn into a Banshee.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
The next one is a Dybbuk.
I know what this is because this is from that movie, The Possession, right?
Yeah. The Dybbuk is a Jewish folk tale of a ghost or dislocated soul of a dead person, which then possesses a human or living human. They have to be alive. Derived from the Hebrew for adhere or cling. This malevolent spirit is said to only depart from its host once it has achieved some sort of goal, allowing it to pass on.
Now that seems to be a common thing.
So it doesn't always have to be an evil spirit,
right?
And a lot of people, because of that movie, they would assume. But no, the Dybbuk also is someone who has unfinished business, and they'll possess someone, and then once they finish that goal, then they leave and they pass on, and they can have peace.
Well, I don't know though, because normally, most of the time, if you leave something behind unfinished,
it could have been like I didn't say goodbye to my loved one.
Yeah.
Or
but how are you going to
Ghost Town?
How are you going to do that though?
Through them, you possess them, and then you go finish it. Like, hey, like you probably
but you're in a complete stranger.
Yeah, but I'm sure that ghost would know. Like, hey, this is a complete stranger, just like that. But in the Jewish faith, if you grew up with that, you would know about all that. So it could be absolutely normal.
Yeah.
And I think that in that movie, The Possession, was a demon. It wasn't a human soul. So it was
just called it a Dybbuk.
Well, a Dybbuk box. That's where it was captured.
True.
It.
Yeah. You're right.
And also in Jewish tradition, when a person dies, you have to open the windows and cover the mirrors so they don't get trapped on Earth.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Last up, and probably the most well-known of our mythical monsters is, of course, the Boogeyman. Everybody knows about the Boogeyman.
Yeah, it's John Wick.
If you didn't grow up with your parents at some point telling you that the Boogeyman was going to get you,
or the Boogeyman's
you
not
missed
real.
Out. Yeah,
like I don't know, because
there's no such thing as the Boogeyman,
Boogeyman.
Anyway, he was created with the sole purpose of scaring children. So that was the entire point of it.
Parents are assholes.
Because there are variations of the Boogeyman in every culture, it's difficult to pinpoint a place of origin. That's why this is so interesting.
Yeah.
The appearance of the Boogeyman differs culturally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he's depicted with horns, claws, talons, or hooves. However, the legend of the Boogeyman in all of its forms is a universal myth. Universal. So there's not a single culture probably out there. Maybe I'm not going to say there's
known to the world.
Yeah,
that we know
in
of.
some capacity or another.
There is a Boogeyman.
There's a Boogeyman, a type of Boogeyman.
That's so interesting.
Baba Yaga or
well, Baba Yaga was it's
the Boogeyman.
It means the Boogeyman, but it was an old witch. Remember, we went through that as well.
Yes.
So yeah, oh God, man. So Mythical Monsters Part 2. I mean, that's pretty interesting. I may have another one. Hold on one second.
So the thing that I like so much about these, besides the fact that I found them fascinating, is just the fact that we've seen how they've evolved, but haven't at the same time. There are some myths that to this day are still prevalent. The Greeks, the Egyptians, the Romans, all of these ancient civilizations, right? They haven't died out because their legends are still talked about. And I want to do some research at some point and figure out exactly how the myths started. I want the I want to be able to trace back these myths, right?
Yeah.
And try and look at, is that a profession? There has to be a profession out there where people do that, because that's something I've always wanted to do, is be able to go back and trace stories or fables, legends, or whatever to a singular source and be able to debunk it.
I'm positive. Almost
give it either a
positive
scientific
there
explanation or be able to figure out exactly why this legend came about. Were these things ever real? And if they weren't real, why did they think they were real?
Yeah, if any of you guys out there know anything about that,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
email us. I have one. El Cuco.
El Cuco?
Yeah, El Cuco. It's a ghoul that watches children from rooftops, snatching and eating them if they disobey their parents.
Oh,
so like a boogeyman.
Yeah, another
and
story to scare the children.
It's a black, basically a blob almost, with a bug-type face with huge eyes and sharp teeth. Yeah, it's.
Oh, it looks like the. What is it? Oh.
And there's some other ones out there. I don't want to get into too many more because I do want to do a part 3.
Yeah.
And because there's so many mythical monsters out there and mythical creatures and everything. But yeah, season 4. On season 4 already
with a bang here, and it's gonna be a good season. We had a nice break, and
I put part 1 of the episodes out. Part 2 will be coming out probably this week about what episodes we're gonna do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this break went by super fast.
That's usually how it works.
Yeah. So but I really missed it. I missed it, like talking every week about stuff.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, we got to do the podcast, and I'm like, oh, we're on break and stuff. So I enjoyed the break, but I also missed everyone, talking to everyone and stuff.
Yep.
Next week we have a really interesting episode coming up, and it's Jesse James.
Aha.
Yep, the outlaw Jesse James.
We're gonna
go to the Wild West, man.
Yeah, we're gonna use that kind of as a jump off point too, because I want to see if it does well, because there's untapped potential there too.
Oh yeah, there's so many.
We have discussed anything.
We literally had to go through all of the episodes we wanted to do and pick out what we wanted to do.
It's
like, oh my god!
And whatever we don't talk about will be covered eventually on one of our other platforms. I mean, whether it's Downtime with Dom or yours, or future seasons. So,
yep. And if you guys would go check out me and my son podcast. It's called My Son and Me. I make my son watch old movies and force him to think about life and everything. So we just did 2 episodes.
How many of those do you think that he's actually going to appreciate, and some that, like, when those movies, when we saw them, they were like the coolest thing ever. Looking back at them now, and you're like, well, you can definitely see this as age. In some cases, not necessarily all of them, but
we've only watched
from a child's eyes.
Yeah, a child's eyes who grew up on with technology and stuff,
and internet,
CGI
social media,
yeah.
and stuff like that. So looking at their viewpoints on it would be kind of interesting too.
Yeah, but we did The Matrix was our first episode, and The Faculty was the second episode.
Oh, nice.
So, and the third episode, I'm not going to tell on here because he does listen to this podcast, and I don't want him to know yet. So, so Jesse James, the outlaw Jesse James, is next week, and we can't wait to jump into the Old West, the old violent West, as we're definitely going to see next week.
Yep.
So, thank you guys. Follow the link below in the description. That's going to be all of our platforms. We did a link tree, so we don't have to blurt out everything, and you guys, all you have to do is click that link in the bio, so it's so much easier for us.
Yeah, we got tired of repeatedly
saying that stuff. And I want to give a shout out to Eternal Prey, who helped us with that. If you guys want to go check out his Twitch streaming, it's Eternal__Prey, and he does some really cool games. But giving a shout out to him for helping us with that link tree.
And always, thanks for listening.
Thank you.